भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत्। नष्टप्रायेष्वभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतसेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नन्दनाय च नन्दगोपकुमाराय गोविन्दाय नमो नमः। Hare Krishna. Thank you everyone for coming to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. So today we are reading from Canto 4, Chapter 3. Chapter title, Talks Between Lord Shiva and Sati. Texts 24 and 25. So text 24. Tatte nirikshyo na pitapi dehakrid Tatte nirikshyo na pitapi dehakrid Daksho mamadvitadanu vrataschaye Daksho mamadvitadanu vrataschaye Yo vishvasrigyajnagatam varorumam Yo vishvasrigyajnagatam varorumam Anagasam durvachasa karotiraha Anagasam durvachasa karotiraha Tatte nirikshyo na pitapi dehakrid Daksho mamadvitadanu vrataschaye Yo vishvasrigyajnagatam varorumam Anagasam durvachasa karotiraha Daksho mamadvitadanu vrataschaye यो विश्वसृज्ञज्ञगतां वरोरुमाम् अनागसं दुर्वचसा करोतिरः Let's look at the word-to-word meaning. Tat, therefore. Te, your. Nirikshaha, to be seen. Na, not. Pita, your father. Api, although. Dehakrit, the giver of your body. Dakshaha, Daksha, Mama, my, Dvit, envious, Tad anuvrataha, his, Daksha's followers, Cha, also, Ye, who, Yaha, who, Daksha, Vishwasrik, of the Viswashriks, Yajnagatam, being present at the sacrifice, Bara Uru, O Sati, Mam, me, Anagasam, being innocent, Durvachasa, with cruel words, Akarotiraha, has insulted. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. Therefore you should not see your father, although he is the giver of your body, because he and his followers are envious of me. Because of his envy, O most worshipful one, he has insulted me with cruel words, although I am innocent. Purport. For a woman, both the husband and the father are equally worshipable. The husband is the protector of a woman during her youthful life, whereas the father is the protector during her childhood. Thus, both are worshipable, but especially the father, because he is the giver of the body. Lord Shiva reminded Sati, your father is undoubtedly worshipable, even more than I am. But take care, for although he is the giver of your body, he may also be the taker of your body, because when you see your father, he may insult you because of your association with me. An insult from a relative is worse than death, especially when one is well situated. Just look at the next verse, text 25. Yadi vrajishyasya madvacho bhadram bhavatyana tato bhavishyati sambhavitasya svajanat parabhavo yada sasadhyo maranaya kalpate. If in spite of this instruction you decide to go, neglecting my words, the future will not be good for you. You are most respectable, and when you are insulted by your relative, this insult will immediately be equal to death. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the fourth canto, third chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Talks Between Lord Shiva and Sati. Let's do Mangalacharan. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Ena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Ena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Bhuter Mahadbir Yaima Puro Vibhu Nirmayashete Yadamushu Purusha Bhunkter Gunam Shodasha Shodasatmaka Solang Krashishta Bhagavan Vachamsi Me. Shri Krishna Sharanam Sharanagatam Katha Amritam Satata Pibatam Bhakti Vedanta Marga Panktanam Sarvaloka Rishi Deva Janna Prasannam Sarvaloka Rishi Deva Janna Prasannam. Hare Krishna. Welcome again to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. Just read the translation once more. Therefore you should not see your father, although he is the giver of your body, because he and his followers are envious of me. Because of his envy, O most worshipful one, he has insulted me with cruel words, although I am innocent. So we are hearing this very dramatic pastime where Daksha Prajapati is conducting a very big sacrifice, and all the demigods, all the devas, the kings, the sages, all the Prajapatis, everyone is very eagerly going to attend the sacrifice. Whereas Lord Shiva and his wife Sati, who is the daughter of Daksha, they haven't been invited for this sacrifice. Now, why? As we know, because of the previous misunderstandings and the tension that happened between Daksha and Lord Shiva. So here we can see that because of Daksha's envy for Lord Shiva, naturally he has not invited his son-in-law. You know, though Lord Shiva he is the Supreme Lord himself, who is touching the material world. He is a great personality. Now, without knowing the glories of Lord Shiva, or even though knowing Daksha, because of his pride, because of his puffed up nature, he has not invited Lord Shiva for the sacrifice. But still Sati wants to go. Now, what is the arguments that Sati gives? She says, you know, even though my dad hasn't invited, he is still my father. I still want to go home. I want to see all my relatives. And therefore, I want to go. And I want also you to come along with me. So this is what Sati is saying. Then in reply, Lord Shiva explains to Mother Sati. He is trying to appeal to her. And he has given various different reasons why Sati should not go to her father's house. Now, what does he say? So Lord Shiva is saying that you are going to, especially in today's verse, he's saying that you should not see your father, because even though he is the giver of your body, that is, materially he is your father, your parents, they have given birth to you. But because of his identification with the material conditions of life, because of his bodily identification, Daksha is not going to respect you when you go and see him. And that insult, when you go there, you're not going to be honored. And that insult is almost equal to death. And therefore, I don't want you to go. Now, what does this death refer to? Now, is Sati, who is the wife of Lord Shiva, is she subjected to any kind of death? Yes? Any thoughts? Is Sati subjected to death? It's her material body. Okay? So, the one who has given this material body, the dad, he may also be the one who is going to take away your material body. Now we know that Sri Krishna as the Supreme Lord is the cause of all causes. So even for all of us, even though we have our material parents, our real father is Sri Krishna. So even when we die, it is this material body that is subjected to death, whereas our soul is eternal. And all our relationships in this life. So our parents are given to us by Krishna. So we don't have the ability to choose our parents. Even though it is said that a soul, when the soul is with Krishna, the soul is able to choose the parents, the family, where the soul wants to enter into. But ultimately, it is Sri Krishna who is choosing our parents. He is using them as an instrument to give us this material body. So here The death that Lord Shiva is speaking about is the material misery that Sati will be subjected to. So he's saying, do you want to really go through that? You are my wife. You are situated on the Shuddha Sattva platform, which is what we saw in yesterday's verse. So beautiful elaboration of the position of Lord Shiva, where he is situated. And compared to that, where is Daksha? He is completely on the opposite end. So Lord Shiva is trying to tell Sati that simply by neglecting by my instruction and you going to see your father, you're only going to be insulted, and therefore please don't go. So here Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport that for a woman, her husband protects her during her youth and during the later stages of her life, whereas her father is her protector during her childhood. And therefore, both are equally important for a woman. Both are equally worshipful for a woman. But at the same time, here, Lord Shiva is warning. Even though you may have that affection for your father, I can understand that. But still, if that is just related to the material condition of your life, then it has no value. Whereas on the spiritual platform, it is eternal. So, we see that why is an insult equal to death? We might think about it, we are told as Vaishnavas, someone insults us, it's okay. You just forgive them, it shouldn't touch us. It is not a big thing. You just brush it off, you go because you're the eternal soul. And we also see in the pastime of Jhadabharat and Rahugana, where King Rahugana, he insults Jhadabharat with very harsh words. And what does Jhadabharat say at that point? Whatever harsh words you're saying, it is only going to harm my physical body. At the max, it can smash one's false ego. It can smash one's mind. But all these are also subtle elements of our body. And again, it is all still at the material platform. So no matter what insult you give me, it's okay, and I'm not worried about that. Now, it is said that the same principle in our Vedic culture, it used to be that whenever someone wanted to give a punishment to somebody, now if there was a situation where they are not able to, kill that person or give death to that person, they would simply punish that person by giving a very severe insult, which is almost equal to death. So we see examples of that in our Shastras. Now, for example, when Rukmini was taken away by Lord Krishna, on his chariot, when Lord Krishna came on the chariot and he stole Rukmini away. And at that time, what happens? Rukmi, who is Rukmini's brother, he comes running after with all his army and everyone, and they have like a big, he wants to have a fight with Krishna because he kidnapped his sister. But what happens at that time? Krishna, he catches hold of Rukmi and he's almost going to slay him. And at that time, Rukmini pleads and she says, please let go of my brother. He's my brother, don't kill him. Please be kind to him. And at that time, what does Lord Krishna do? He just slices his shika, his hair. And then he says, go away, it's okay. Because of Rukmini's love and affection, I am just letting you go. And there it is said that for a Brahmana, just taking off his shika and just, insulting him in that way, that is equal to a death, that kind of a punishment. And therefore, after that, when Rukmi goes away, he feels so ashamed that he doesn't even enter his city back. He just lives on the outskirts. And we see a similar example like that when Ashwatthama and Arjuna, when they had the Brahmastras crossing with each other, when Ashwatthama released his Brahmastra, and when Ashwatthama had killed the 5 sleeping sons of Draupadi, Arjuna gets very angry because Ashwatthama has killed his sons. And therefore, he goes on his chariot to go and catch Ashwatthama. And at that time, seeing the glare of Arjuna's coming towards him, Ashwatthama doesn't know what to do. And at that time, what does he do? In his helpless condition, he just releases his Brahmastra. And at that time, Arjuna asks Lord Krishna, what should I do now? His Brahmastra is coming towards me. And at that time, Lord Krishna advises, don't worry, only another Brahmastra can counteract this. So then Arjuna releases his Brahmastra. Then both collide and there's a big fire. And seeing this, now Arjuna is wondering what to do. And then he retracts both the Brahmastras. But then he catches Ashwatthama, and again he's bound by ropes and he brings him. And at this time, he's almost going to kill him. And Krishna says, you should kill him. Don't let him go. Because he has killed your sons, that is a punishment you should give him. But at that time, Draupadi pleads. And what does she say? Please show your compassion. I know he's done a mistake, but it's okay. Just let him go. And at that time, what does Arjuna do? Because he wants to please both his father and his wife. So then again, at that time, Arjuna, he just takes off his jewel on the head and then he just sends him away, which is the biggest punishment. So neither there is a death for him, but at the same time, there is an insult which is equivalent to a death. So why I was giving this example, it's just for us to understand why Lord Shiva is saying that you will be insulted, and that insult is almost equal to death. So we can see that Daksha is out of his envy, out of his possessions, out of his pride. He is completely on the opposite end. Whereas Lord Shiva, because of his trance, because of his samadhi, because of his constant meditation on the Supreme Lord within his heart, now he is on the other end. And therefore Lord Shiva is saying, oh my dear Sati. And here in this verse, he uses the word Vara Uru. That is, Vara means the bride or the bridegroom. Uru means one who is great. O most worshipful one, because of your connection with me, we saw that in a few verses before, that is Mad Ashrayat. Because you are under my shelter, because of your connection with me, even you are on a very high platform. Now, do you want to really go and subject yourself to this material condition and this material misery that your dad is going to inflict on you? So that is what Lord Shiva is saying. Now we can see that, practically in our life, living in this material world, we are constantly bombarded with material situations that are so miserable. Just straight out of the box, today from 6 o'clock I was driving in the car leaving Glenfield, and at around 6:30 there was an incident on M5. And first you can just see that there are so many cars piled up, that's all. And then you don't know, you think, okay, in 5 minutes, 10 minutes it'll move. And till about 7:10 the cars were not moving, and then I've switched on the phone. Until that I didn't even put on the phone. And then it says it's going to be so much delay and you're only going to reach around 7:50 or 8 o'clock. And at that moment I literally died. To be honest, I felt like, okay, I took up this seva and I'm unable to go. I'm not going to make it on time. Oh Krishna, what did I do? Why am I subjected to this? And I was literally crying almost in my heart. But then what do? Because we see Krishna in our heart, Krishna gives us the guidance. He gives us his personal association. So anyway, as I'm driving, I always listen to kirtans. So, the kirtans are going on in the car, Shri Guru Padma Charana. So as Guru Puja is going on here, I'm hearing Guru Puja, I'm chanting. With all this, what happens? Krishna shows us that when we try to turn towards him, when we keep our mind engaged in his thoughts, then he is always with us, giving us his protection. And in just a few minutes, all the cars started moving. So even though it was like a material death for about 2 hours, you somehow survive that, and then you become alive again. So in the previous verse, we saw how Lord Shiva is beautifully explaining about his position. So what does Lord Shiva say? Sattvam vishuddham vasudeva shabditam yad iyate tatra pumana pavritaha sattve cha tasmin bhagavan vasudevo hyadokshajo me namasa vidhiyate. I am always engaged in offering obeisances to Lord Vasudeva in pure Krishna consciousness. Krishna consciousness is always pure consciousness, in which the Supreme Personality of Godhead, known as Vasudeva, is revealed without any covering. So Lord Shiva is constantly on this Shuddha Sattva platform. So we'll try to meditate a little bit on the purport from this verse, because in today's verse, Lord Shiva is saying, therefore you should not go. So what is this therefore that Lord Shiva is referring to? What is the reason why you should not go? As we saw, because of your connection with me, and where is my position? That is what Lord Shiva is delving upon in the previous verse. And Srila Prabhupada is giving a very beautiful purport to help us to understand this. So Srila Prabhupada says that the living entity, our soul, is always pure in nature. We know that from Bhagavad Gita. The soul is eternal. The soul cannot be killed. It is eternally pure. But because of our connection with the material nature, when we get attached to the material conditions of life, we get contaminated. But at the same time, when we reverse that process, when we begin to take to devotional service, when we start performing bhakti, we come under the direct shelter of the Lord's internal potency. And who is that? Srimati Radha Rani. So when we come under the shelter of the Lord's internal potency, and when that takes over our life completely, then all our activities are on the Shuddha Sattva platform. Now, all of us may not be immediately at that level. That is why we keep doing years and years of practice. Then what happens at that stage, no matter what material situations we are subjected to or material miseries, it will not affect us so much. Yes, it will touch us, but our response to that will change. Like, for example, what happened today. Yes, I felt like crying. I felt like, oh, I'm not going to be able to do my seva. And then slowly, as this is going on, a lot of other realizations are coming. It's okay. If I can't go, there are so many wonderful devotees there in the temple. And every soul is the same. And this is where I'm getting all the realizations from Bhagavad Gita. There is no difference between me and any other soul. We are all the same. So if I don't give the class, there is always another wonderful soul who will be able to give the class. So these things help us to face any material situation. So when we take to the shelter of Krishna, then Krishna constantly gives us guidance. He helps us to realize his presence in our life. So for example, Srila Prabhupada says that this Shuddha Sattva existence is under the direct action of the internal potency, and at that state, all activities of material consciousness stop. And he gives the example when, just as when iron is put into fire, what happens because of all the heat, iron begins to act as fire itself. And just as when copper is, when there is electricity, when copper is surcharged with electricity, its action as a copper, just as it's, when we just see a piece of copper wire here, it's just a piece of wire. But when it is connected and when it is surcharged with electricity, what happens? Copper begins to act as electricity. So like that, he who engages in unadulterated devotional service to the Lord is at once elevated to the position of pure Brahman. That is, Mam Chayo Vyabhicharena Bhakti Yogena Sevate Sagunan Samatitaitan Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. And then Srila Prabhupada goes on to say that this Shuddha Sattva platform is called as Vasudeva. It is called as the Vasudeva platform. So these are it's a name that is given to the Shuddha Sattva platform. Why? Because Lord Krishna is perceived. Lord Krishna reveals himself when one is in that Vasudeva state, when one is in that Shuddha Sattva platform. So we were also hearing yesterday how that Vasudev, this is also the interpretation. When Vasudev, from his mind, Shri Krishna transfers himself to the mind and heart of Devaki, and then he enters her womb, and then Lord Krishna appears. So Vasudev is also the state of mind where Shri Krishna reveals himself. So Srila Prabhupada goes on to explain that at this state, the Supreme Lord is revealed without any covering. So there is no question of false ego. There is no question of the mind that is constantly barking or the mind that is constantly saying different things. At the Shuddha Sattva platform, one is simply serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead as a matter of duty, without reason and without being impeded by material conditions. And at this stage, the Supreme Lord is revealed in the heart of the devotee. So Lord Shiva is saying that on this platform, I am constantly meditating on the Supreme Lord. I am constantly offering my obeisances to Him. And I am constantly perceiving the Supreme Lord in my heart. Whereas, where is Daksha? He is completely covered by his false ego. He is acting with pride. He is acting with envy. Oh, my dear Sati, oh, Vara Uru, do you really want to go and see him? You know, do you really want to neglect what I'm saying? And then, what does Srila Prabhupada say in yesterday's purport? He says that Vasudeva also means one who is everywhere or all pervading. And then he says that when one is free from the contamination of material nature and is situated in pure Krishna consciousness or in the Vasudeva state, then Vasudeva, who is Sri Krishna, is revealed. So in that pure state of Krishna consciousness, what do we do? What is the first thing we are doing? What are we doing in Krishna consciousness? Chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So as soon as we chant, we come under the direct shelter of the internal potency of Sri Krishna, Hare, Srimati Radharani. And therefore what happens, as we keep chanting, as we keep hearing from the Shastras, as we keep hearing from Srimad Bhagavatam, all the sound vibrations, it enters our ears, it goes into our heart, it cleanses our heart. Ase shrute kshitapato nanunata pumsam yadyad diyata urugaya vibhavayanti tattad vapu pranayase sadanugrahaya. So, what happens as we keep hearing Ase shrute kshita? So, by hearing, Krishna enters our ears through the sound vibration, and then he cleanses our heart. And the saffron particles from the lotus feet of Sri Krishna, it helps us to awaken our love for him. And then Sri Krishna is revealed in the heart of such a devotee. So Lord Shiva is saying, I am constantly meditating on Sri Krishna. I am constantly offering obeisances to him. Do you really want to leave this and just go just for one mere sacrifice to go and see your dad? Are you sure you want to do this? And then, what does Srila Prabhupada say in yesterday's purport? Now, one may inquire that the devotee is on the material platform. How is it possible that with our materialistic eyes, how can one become purified by devotional service? And then he says that Lord Chaitanya has given us the process. That is, by chanting, what happens? It cleanses the mirror of our mind. It cleanses the mirror of our heart. What is the verse? Cheto dharpanamarjanam bhavamavadhavagni nirvapanam shreya kairava chandrika vitaranam vidyavadu jivanam. So, cheto dharpana marjanam. Our cheta, our mind is completely cleansed. So, when the mirror of the mind is cleansed, then one can see clearly. But is Daksha's mind cleansed like that? Daksha is acting from his pride. His mind is so puffed up. He is acting on his bodily platform. And therefore, Lord Shiva is saying, don't go. He is acting from a bodily platform. Don't go. And then what does Lord Shiva say? That his heart is always filled with the conception of Vasudeva. He is constantly meditating on him. It is said that, or rather in Srimad Bhagavatam, in the same 4th canto, we see later on in chapter 24 in the Rudra Geet, Lord Shiva offers beautiful prayers to the Supreme Lord in his Rudra Geet. And there he beautifully glorifies Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna and Aniruddha. That is the expansions of Lord Narayan, the secondary expansions of Lord Narayan. And there he specifically also glorifies Lord, that is, he glorifies the Vasudev feature of the Lord. So we will recite that verse a bit later. So Srila Prabhupada goes on to say that when one is constantly engaged in the service of Sri Krishna, when we keep practicing our bhakti, we cannot demand and ask, oh, now I'm doing bhakti, I want to see Krishna. Krishna appear before me. Krishna dance before me. No, that doesn't happen. But seeing the sincere service of a devotee, seeing the sincere intentions of a devotee, Sri Krishna reveals himself out of his sweet will. Because Krishna also wants to please Srimati Radharani. Because when one is taking shelter of Krishna, of Srimati Radharani, then Srimati Radharani recommends. You know, for example, like today, it could have been, someone may have thought, oh, it's 7:45, she's not here, what will happen? Maybe someone can go. But then the devotees were so merciful, isn't it? So they were singing Radha Madhava and they were waiting. So Krishna's mercy doesn't come directly. It flows through Srimati Radharani. It flows through Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It flows through the Guru Parampara, through Srila Prabhupada, through our Guru, through the devotees. And then it helps us to serve the Supreme Lord. Because without the mercy of the devotees, nothing is possible. And here Lord Shiva is saying, I am here constantly meditating on the Lord. Do you want to really leave me and do you want to go and see Daksha? So, and then in that verse, in yesterday's verse, we also saw the beautiful name of Lord Krishna as Adokshaja, who is beyond our sense perception. So Adokshaja means the Lord who who cannot be simply perceived through our material eyes and material vision. So Lord Shiva is saying that Daksha, who is acting on his material platform, who is acting on his bodily platform, he is seeing through his material vision. How is he going to understand that Lord Adokshaja is in my heart, that he has to respect any person who has the super soul in their heart? Daksha is not able to see me or see anyone with that vision. And you, my dear Sati, you are connected with me, and Adokshaja is in your heart. If your dad had seen that, he would have invited both of us. But he has not been able to see that. He has not been able to see Adokshaja. Do you really want to go there? And so Lord Shiva is saying, don't go. So here, Srila Prabhupada explains that one cannot realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead simply by one's speculative mind. So simply if we try to analyze Srimad Bhagavatam from a mundane perspective, it is very hard to understand. So only when we are able to take the shelter of our Guru, when we are able to take the shelter of the devotees, when we are able to approach Srimad Bhagavatam with humility, then Sri Krishna, through his spiritual energy, he reveals himself to us. So in the Rudra Geet, we will end with that. Lord Shiva beautifully prays. What does Lord Shiva say? Namaha pankajanaabhaya bhuta sukshmendriyatmane vasudevaya shantaya kutastaya swarochishe. My Lord, you are the origin of the creation by virtue of the lotus flower which sprouts from your navel. You are the supreme controller of the senses and the sense objects, and you are also the all-pervading Vasudeva. You are most peaceful, and because of your self-illuminated existence, you are not disturbed by the 6 kinds of transformations. That is, Lord Shiva, while glorifying Vasudeva, that is the Supreme Lord, what is he saying? That you are the supreme controller of the senses. That is Rishikesha. Rishikesha is the name of the Supreme Lord who is controlling our senses. And here Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport that Lord Shiva desires not to be misled by the material senses, but to engage always in the service of the Lord without being subject to contamination by materialistic influences. So we saw that Lord Shiva touches the material world. So it's a very precarious situation. And at this time, if, for example, Sati herself, who is Prakriti, who is related to Lord Shiva, she herself is overcome so much by this material affliction of wanting to go to her father. So Lord Shiva, in the Rudra Geet while praying, he is saying that everyone is subjected to the material attachments, and I don't want to be misled by that, whereas I want to constantly see you in my heart. And therefore Lord Shiva is saying that Namaha Pankajanabhaya Bhuta Sukshmendriyatmane Vasudevaya Shantaya. You are the most peaceful one, and you are not subjected to the 6 transformations of life. So what are these 6 transformations? Like birth, old age, disease, all the miseries that we go through, everything, then from childhood to boyhood to youth to, as we progress, so many different things we experience in our life. Whereas the Supreme Lord is not subjected to all that. And therefore, Lord Shiva is saying that I want to constantly be in your service. And Srila Prabhupada explains that by the grace and help of Lord Vasudeva, who is all-pervading, one can engage his senses in devotional service without deviation, just as the Lord acts without deviation. So the Supreme Lord is also called as Achyuta. He is infallible and he never deviates from his vow. Sakrid eva prapanna. We heard that, isn't it? That is Lord Ram also says, once one surrenders to me, I will never let them go. So the Lord never deviates from his vow. So like that, when we take shelter of Vasudeva, who is in our heart, then we can also be steady in our devotional service. We can never deviate from our path. So that is what Lord Shiva is telling Sati. Your father, who is so overcome by his pride and envy and ego and everything, he's completely on the opposite end. Whereas you, who are under my shelter, you have direct access to Vasudeva, and nothing will happen to you. I'm here to protect you. And therefore, don't go. By going, you will be insulted. So, and just one more line in the purport to this verse from Rudra Geet, Srila Prabhupada says that although the Lord is within this material world, he is not disturbed by the waves of material existence. That is, the Supreme Lord, how can we see that he is in the material world? He is in our heart, isn't it? As the super soul, the Lord has entered the material world, but in our heart as the super soul. And at that stage, in that Shuddha Sattva platform, when we connect with Krishna, Krishna who is not touched by the material conditions, and therefore we will also not be touched by, or rather we will not be overcome by the influence of the material conditions of life. And that is what Lord Shiva is telling Sati. You are most worshipful, oh my dear Vara Uru. You are so great, and you are under my shelter. Therefore, don't go. And then we will see what happens in the next chapter. So on this note, we will end by taking complete shelter of Shishi Radha Gopinath and Srila Prabhupada, our Guru Parampara, and all the devotees. Let us offer our heartful gratitude for always keeping us under their divine shelter and protection, and for constantly guiding us as Vasudeva in our heart, in our life, and by engaging us in their service, and by showering upon us their love and protection, care, affection, and their divine blessings. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, Srila Gurudev ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki Jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Hari Bol. Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai. Any comments, questions, corrections? Thank you.